something called influence area. So the influence area is determined by requiring life load for larger area than the tributary area to influence the structural performance of a member. So then when you think of an influence area, it's bigger than the tributary area. So then the tributary area versus the influence area, the tributary area assumes that each load on a structure is supported entirely by the nearest structural member. So for instance, you have those two markers, right? And just imagine if you have a plywood sit on top of this, and those act like beams. Who carries the load? Which carries the load? The beams carry the load, right? Because if you have object that sit on the plywood, then those two carry. But if you have an influence area, then the load carries beyond those two beams. That's kind of the concept. So the influence area recognizes that the total load experienced by structural member may be influenced by load applied outside the tributary area. For example, any load applied between two beams is recognized to influence both beams, even though the load is located within the tributary area of just one of the beams. So with that, what is the equation of the influence area? The influence area equals what? Equals the tributary area times K sub LL. So K is a factor and LL stands for life load. Now, something also to mention here, for columns, the K LL equals 4. That's the factor for the column. And for beams, for a girder, is 2. So then if you want to go back and find the influence area, I'm just going to call it INF for joist 1. What is the influence area? It's, yeah, so it's a 24 square feet times 2. And this gives me 48 square feet. Now, I have to ask you this, why the unit here remained the same? Square feet and square feet. Because 2 is a factor, it doesn't have any units. So then J2 is what? 28 square feet times what? 2, because it's a beam, so it's 56 square feet. What about the influence area for girder 1? It's 260 square feet times 2. So that's 520 square feet. The influence area for girder 2 is 312 square feet times again 2 This gives me 624 square feet. And then the influence area for column 1 is 132 square feet times what? 4. So then this gives me 1144 square feet. Influence area for column 2 is, no, it's this actually not this one should be 286. And this one here is 132 square feet times 4. And it gives me 528 square feet. And then the influence area for column 3 is 70 times square feet times 4, and this would be 140 square feet. And I'm purposely mentioning the square feet